Awesome. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Henry Kaminski here from the Passionpreneur Inner Circle, and today we are going live with Passionpreneur Video Podcast, episode number 32. We have an amazing couple of guests that I want to introduce. One is Kate McKnight and Lee Rawley from Connecting with Your Clan. And today we're going to talk about connecting authentically with your audience and why it's so important to actually build an audience. So guys, for those that don't know who Kate McKnight and Lee Rawley are, please give our guests, our audience, a 2 or 3 minute background of who you guys are and why we should be paying attention to what you're saying today.
Well, absolutely. First, it's great to be on the show. Thanks for having us on, Henry. I really appreciate that. We both have backgrounds as sales copywriters. And I've been doing this for about 9 years. Kate, I think she's been board copywriting.
Yeah,
for
3 to 4 years.
3 or 4. Okay. In that time, we've worked together for several years, and we've worked with about 1,200 or so coaches, consultants, course creators. And one thing that we've seen over and over again is that when they're trying to get their messaging out, that they're going too broad, that they're trying to be all things to all people. And Kate will get into that, I think, a little more in a second. But we found out that just wasn't working. So what we did was we picked apart what the successful coaches and the successful course creators were doing, and we started helping our coaches integrate that into their marketing.
Got it. Awesome. Kate, you want to add?
Yeah, so again, great to be here. My name is Kate, and I've started out as a freelancer, ended up going kind of behind the scenes as a copywriter for some big name people, hooked up with Lee. And yeah, one of the biggest things we found is that with our clients, in their messaging and their copy, they're not really connecting with their ideal audience or attracting their ideal audience because they're not being authentic in their messaging. And there's really a disconnect of a lack of knowledge of how do you do that? What does that mean? And so we're really here to spread that message and help people connect authentically with their tribes, or as we call it, their clans.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I've struggled tremendously, and I'll be very transparent here. I've struggled tremendously trying to narrow down who it is that I truly want to serve. And I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, recently. You guys have been a great asset to my brand and my business. I've been working with you guys now for over 2.5 years. And I just, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for all that you do for me and my clients, because your work is just A-rate, and we couldn't be happier. But one of the things that I struggled with before you guys came on board and for quite some while is actually narrowing down who it is that I want to serve. And what I realized was this: the folks that really connect with me the most are the folks that are trying to build a personal brand, like the personal brand that I'm building myself. And they really see me as the guide. They see me as, a few chapters ahead of them, and they say, okay, we want to connect with you because you're ahead of the game. So we want to learn from you and what needs to go into place. So my point of saying this is I've realized that I really want to focus on those folks, those entrepreneurs, those solopreneurs that are really interested in building that personal brand for themselves. And the light went off when I was like, okay, how do you speak to those folks? Because I would much rather speak to those folks specifically rather than trying to speak to thousands of business owners, if you will, that all have different businesses. It's a lot. So I want you to talk about how important it is to speak to one person or one buying persona versus thousands.
Yeah, sure. So I think the most important thing is that when you're trying to speak to thousands of people, it's not going to come across as authentically, or your passion's not really going to come through because it's not going to align with everyone. You want to speak to a small group of people who really resonate with your driving beliefs. And when you connect with people who believe what you believe, it forms almost like a community or a more emotional bond. And those are the people who are going to come back to you over and over. They're going to keep buying from you. They're going to become brand evangelists, essentially. So that's my main thing. Anything from you, Lee?
People naturally gravitate toward those who have the same beliefs as they do. Just an example, I know I absolutely hate football, but here in Ohio, you believe that the Ohio State is the best football team in the entire world, and if you do that, and you're going to be talking about it all the time, and you're going to be people that also believe what you believe are going to naturally gravitate towards you and see you as an ally. And that gets into talking to people, one-on-one. Being able to articulate your driving beliefs is the core thing for attracting, we think, the right people. And we've seen that over and over again, helping coaches and consultants incorporate that into their marketing, is that when they're able to articulate their own beliefs, what they believe about the world, what they believe about their product, and what they believe about where their clients and customers are going with the help of their products and services, then it makes it easy and almost effortless to connect with them. Yeah. And then they see you as the authority, they see you as the ally, they see you as the go-to expert in your niche, even if there are thousands or even tens of thousands of other people doing this, essentially the same thing you're doing.
Got it. That's awesome. I mean, that is a great, it's like, so here's the thing. And there's so many experts out there, right? So why is it so important to come across with your messaging as authentic as possible?
Oh, even going back thousands of years, though, there's been the saying, there's nothing new under the sun, really. I mean, when it comes down to it, there are certain ways to market, there are certain ways to coach, there are certain ways to run your business. And, I know that I've had the experience of hearing essentially the same thing dozens of times. But then when I hear it from somebody who I really connect with, then that's when I finally have that aha moment. And so that's why I think it's important not really to worry so much about how many competitors there are, but to speak your own voice and to naturally attract those people who resonate with that voice. Kate, I'm sorry I cut you off there, so please go ahead.
No problem. No worries. So yeah, in short, just to add to that, if you're authentic, you're going to enjoy what you do more. Like, you're going to be attracting people who resonate with who you are. You don't have to put up a face or pretend to be somebody you're not. You can just be real, and that's going to make more passion in your job, because you're going to look forward to connecting with other people who are like you, who share your beliefs, who like you for you. It's like, you don't walk up to your friends and ask them what they would change about you, because they just want you to be yourself. And so that's how it should be with your loyal group of customers. They should just like you for you.
I love that. It's such a great point. What makes someone inauthentic?
Looking at it from a perspective generally of what's in it for them, for the money aspect. As many, Simon Sinek says that money is always a byproduct of doing what you do. It's not a purpose. It's a result. It's not a purpose in and of itself. And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up, because they go, okay, for example, we get people that's like, hey, I just quit my job. I need to make this a big business. I need to have this be successful within the next 30 days, and there's nothing wrong with money. We all love it, but, again, I think it has to be a byproduct rather than your main focus. And so those people who are inauthentic are the people that are just saying, okay, well, if I just tell them this, if I tell them what they want to hear, then they're going to love me and they're going to give me money and I'm going to be successful and I'm going to be driving a Lamborghini and, retire with, $12 million in a yacht.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it comes down, oh, sorry.
No,
I think it comes down to like, what are your motivations? You either, like Lee has said to me before, you have to have a motivation beyond money. When your motivation, when your heart's in the right place, you're going to come across as authentic rather than just doing different tactics to attract people to you using this funnel or that funnel. It's more of just telling your story.
Let's talk about that for a second. I think a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong here, in my opinion, I think a lot of people are so afraid of what people think of them. And I think they're afraid to tell that story authentically. Because I think it's the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the fear of why would anybody listen to me? Why would anybody listen to me? When in fact, your story is unique to yourself. And like, that is truly the unique branding proposition of you. And so how, like, my question is, where do people trip up when it comes to telling their story?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be authentic and you really have to be vulnerable. And so I think that's where people trip up. They don't want to be vulnerable because it's scary. And yeah, someone might say, you're an idiot. I'm not going to listen to you. But I mean, I don't know. I think it comes down to just willing to be a little vulnerable, put yourself out there and see what happens.
Yeah. Lee?
The vulnerability point is definitely a huge thing. And that for many of us, goes back, years, decades, clear back to early. I mean, we're not taught to be risk takers. We're not taught to let other people see ourselves. We're taught that that's dangerous. That we need to be pleasing, and I know, in my family and in my wife's family, and I think a lot of us can really resonate with this. That you have your parents, your grandparents, your community, everyone around you is teaching you that you have to be likable to all people, and to some degree that requires just being vanilla. I mean, the people that are kind of likable to all people are the ones that really don't voice what's inside of them. They just try to be the status quo, and it's painful to step out there and do that. But I think keeping in mind that you are out to make a difference is a key point. I mean, you're getting a payoff for that, for experiencing that vulnerability, because when you get people coming back to you and saying, you know what, if you had not shared this story with me, I never really would have paid attention to you, and I would not have accomplished X, Y, and Z in my life if I had not been able to connect with your story. So, to me, it's really a matter about, do you want to make real change with 100 people, 1,000 people? Or do you want to, try to appeal to 1 million people and fail to really make an impact on any of them?
Like watering yourself down almost.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people do that just to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. I did an Instagram live stream today. I do them every day, 11:30 Eastern. And we talked about, we were talking about confidence versus arrogance. And we were talking about not giving a damn what other people think, but giving a damn about what people think, and walking that fine line. Like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's like, I don't care what anybody thinks of me, but I care what everybody thinks of me. And it's interesting how he plays that back and forth. Like, I don't listen to junk, but I listen to junk. I don't listen to all the naysayers, but I listen to the naysayers. And like, we had this conversation, and it was interesting because for those, and I'm a big proponent of, I truly don't. I let I let a lot of things kind of roll off my shoulder going forward. And I made that decision a couple of years ago, and it really has helped me grow the business exponentially. But when I see the trolls, when I used to put out these Facebook ads and I see these trolls jumping on the ads and kind of like trying to put in their 2 cents, you know, I don't delete them. I don't hide them. I'm listening, you know? And so I want to make it, as much as you shouldn't care about what everybody thinks of you, and you should have a prolific personality, keep a pulse, right? And correct me if I'm wrong here. Keep a pulse on some of this feedback. Some of the feedback could be way from planet, like from planet Pluto, but some of the feedback and some of the messaging that you get back may be helpful for your positioning, for your future marketing. And so for those folks that say, I don't give a damn what everybody thinks, like, let's talk about that for a second. And like, is that really true?
Well, I think that when you hear that, and it is bound to happen. You know, obviously we've both done quite a bit of work with Facebook ads, and you know, it's always a little frustrating when you're putting something out there and you have people who have nothing better to do than make stupid comments and, you know, try to dissuade other people from buying. But you know, I do agree with you. I think that it's important not to let it connect on an emotional level. But the feedback that you get, I compare it to holding it up against your truth, holding it up to the light of your truth and your driving beliefs, and saying, is there anything in here that I can use to make myself better? You know, in some cases there's going to be, and in many cases there won't. It's just garbage that people are putting out there just so that they can feel better about themselves. Because, you know, you understand, you know, we talked about vulnerability a little bit ago, and there are a lot of people out there who wish that they could make a difference. There are a lot of people out there who wish that they could impact people's lives, and they wish that they could do something other than, you know, go manage a McDonald's or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's your thing, great. But, you know, it's just always my stock example. But they don't do that. So instead of looking at their own truth, they're seeking to tear down other people who have the coconuts to actually get out there and make it happen.
And I would just add to that, if you're not getting bad feedback sometimes, that means you're not being polarizing at all. And that means you're boring and you're vanilla, and that's not what you want to be. So the trick is just, I think, to not let it seep into you and let it affect your attitude. But yeah, you might learn something from them. And hey, if you've got some haters, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, that's both of you make very great points of this and this concept of, you know, and so I want to jump into, because we're about halfway through. I want to jump into the importance of building an audience, and being authentic with that audience, and how that turns into revenue. Okay, so you guys are starting you guys are embarking on a new venture called Connect with Your Clan. And so talk a little bit about your why of creating that, and what is your end goal with it?
Sure.
We feel like, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was waiting on you. You go ahead.
No. We see a lot of potential in so many people out there who can make a real difference, not only for, you know, themselves, but for their clients, their families, you know, and we feel like just being able to pull out of them those stories, those driving beliefs, it can actually transform their lives, because they can see success that they haven't been able to find. And again, we talked about the 1,000 people. You know, we don't think that you need, you know, 10,000 people, 1,000,000 people. You need 1,000 people who believe in everything that you do, will buy everything that you put out there, and will tell their friends, colleagues, neighbors, dogs, whatever, about you, because they believe so strongly in your authenticity, in your message, and what you're doing for them.
It's awesome. Kate?
Yeah, absolutely. It all goes back to, I don't know if you've heard Kevin Kelly and the 1,000 True Fans. It all goes back to that idea, which is, I mean, I think he was saying that back in 2008 or 2009, just that you just need this core group of people. You don't have to burden yourself with this mission to get 1 million followers. You can just get 1,000 people who really resonate with you, who love what you're doing and you want to help. And through that, you can start a world-changing movement. We honestly believe that, and we want to help people lead their own movements.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like Evan Carmichael from YouTube, big YouTube guy. Follow his videos. I find them extremely motivating. He talks about your one word. He's got that book, Your One Word. And my one word for Unique Designz is impact. So how can I impact one person today? One. That's all. Like, it sounds small, but how can I impact one person today? And I think when you're creating a clan, when you're creating your audience, at least for me, it's how can I impact that audience one way or another for them to freaking realize that time is not infinite, that we only have one freaking life to live. And what are you going to do with your time to fulfill yourself and to fulfill like the life that you're living and the folks around you? Because I think Tony Robbins said one time, I was at UPW Chicago a couple of years ago, and he said, living is for giving. Living is for giving. And the more you give, the more you live. And I'll never freaking forget that, because I was so, I'll be vulnerable here. When I first started my business and when I first started my life, I guess, I was extremely selfish. I did not give for shit. And I just took. I was a taker. And it wasn't until that all caught up to me, and it was like I hit that brick wall going 150 miles an hour, like head first. And when my business was about to go out of business, did I realize that I was a taker. And the more I started to understand that the more you give, the more it comes back to you, but you can't expect it. It just happens. But focusing in on making an impact and just sharing my stories, my vulnerabilities, my failures, my successes, it's crazy how that comes back around, like when you least expect it. And that's a whole nother topic of conversation for another day, expectation versus appreciation, which I'll talk about that soon. But it was, I don't know, I just went on a total tangent there, but it's the point of impact. And when you're building a clan, I think you can't look at that. You can't look at building your clan like we talked about before. If you're just building your clan to make money, I think people are going to read right through that and be like, you're full of shit. You know, I'm out. Like, forget, like, I'm out. But if you're creating your clan to create that sense of community, create that sense of like-mindedness, if you create that sense of connection, I think, you can move mountains in days instead of months. And then, that was one of the biggest reasons why we created the Passionpreneur Inner Circle. That was one of the biggest things that helped me get out of my jam 4 years ago, is connecting with a clan that knew more than me or knew things that I didn't know, and, learning from those folks. Because, man, when you get around the right people, it starts to rub off on you. And, man, just being in the couple inner circle groups that I've been involved with the past couple of years, like, man, I've learned so much, and some great value has rubbed off onto me, which has really helped me grow my business to where it's at today. And talk about that for a second, because I see both of you guys have that in your eye and in your heart as to why you're building this community, this audience in the first place. So, if you don't mind sharing, what is that core? What if we could go like 7 layers deep? Like, what is it going? When are you going to be like, yes, yes, that is why we are doing this? Like, talk to me about that. I wish I could articulate that a little bit better, but yeah, I think you know where I'm going with that.
I think the point for me will be when we have the group big enough. Why that's not big enough, but engaged to the point where they're teaching each other as well. Because we don't just people to learn just from our perspectives. We're here to help from all the years that we've had working with coaches and consultants. But we realize that it's no way that we can possibly know anything. And that's why we want to bring in all these different perspectives, people who have their own stories, and will be able to share those in what we consider a safe environment. Because there are limits to vulnerability. I mean, in doing so in a closed Facebook group where we only have a certain number of people who are all aligned toward the same goal, to get their message out and to impact others and to help others impact their clans as well, then we feel like we've done our job.
I love it. Kate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Same for me. When I start hearing the stories of people, that's when I'm going to be like, yes, this is what it's all about. It's just hearing other people tell how they're connecting with their clans and growing their businesses and finally seeing success after years of struggling or whatever. To me, it's the difference between going to like a big box gym, or like I recently joined more of like a powerlifting specific gym. You compound your success because you learn from like-minded people who are all on the same track. They all want to compete in the same things as you. You're growing together, and it's a community. It's not just you're putting in your time. It's building that community and sharing each other's successes.
Yeah. And we all grow. Like, I always say about the Passionpreneur Circle, it's not, this program is not about me. It's about us. And I say, like, the power is in the community. And I heard this saying one day, business is a team sport. And the more people that you can have on your team, don't take this the wrong way, but the more people that you can have on your team that are all-stars, the more you're going to progress, the more you're going to grow, the more you're going to get better, right? Surrounding yourself with the right people, like I said before, is the best way to get ahead and to really take down like one barrier at a time. I can only help, and the three of us can only help so many people at a time as individuals. But when you get around that community, when you build a community, when you build an audience, and those folks start to help each other, and that trust begins to grow, and that sense of family begins to grow, I got to tell you, it is a beautiful thing to watch. I mean, just starting the Passionpreneur Circle in December and watching the members inside, again, just looking at it from a 30,000 foot view down and watching everyone working together and connecting and sharing their expertise and inspiring and sharing wins and sharing losses. And man, there's just something to be said about it. And I think all of us should be part of something, because I think at the end of the day, we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. It's just finding that right clan to connect with, I think. And so we only got a couple minutes, but how does one connect with one clan? And I think I know what the answer is, but I want you to reiterate this because it's important. How does one pick one tribe to connect with over another tribe?
So I can tell we're waiting on each other to talk again. So okay, go ahead. Yeah, I guess maybe that's the hazards of having three people on a podcast. But yeah, it comes back to me. It comes back to identifying and being willing to articulate your driving beliefs, what's inside you. I mean, if you're, Henry, have you ever sold a product that you just really weren't all that into, or that you just really didn't care about, that you were just selling it because of, just for money or just to make a living?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I just remember, when I got out of college, I graduated college with an art degree, which is really, really bright idea. So, and I'm like, okay, well, crap, now I'm out of college. I gotta do something. So, I answered one of these ads back when they actually had newspapers, and it was one of those, make $500 a day, no experience necessary, will train, and I call it, they're just like, well, come on in for orientation. Orientation ends up, like, hey, they hand you a cardboard box with the product and said, here, go knocking door to door and sell the thing. And so I opened it up, and there's like 100 of these plush ducks. There's like a little button on the foot where you press it and it goes, and they're like, well, that's, this is all the training you get. Just go out there, find a neighborhood, go out there and sell these stupid ducks, and I'm like, I don't give a crap about plush ducks. What am I going to do? So I spent, a solid 8 hours, going door to door in this neighborhood and going, hey, lady, want to buy a duck? Slam. Hey, lady, want to buy a duck? Slam. And so I still got this whole box, and I think I'd sold maybe 2 of them. And finally, I saw a bar at the end of subdivision. I'm like, what? Screw it. I'm just going to go sit down and have a drink. So this guy is next to me, and he's probably 50s, early 60s or something like that. And he's like, oh, you answered the ad, didn't you? I'm like, yeah, I did. He's like, okay, well, like, watch this, because I've got grandkids. So he goes around the bar and starts talking to people about their grandkids and starts connecting with them about, with these stories. And then somehow, like, he works in that this would be a great gift for their grandkids that they don't get to see enough because they're busy spending their whole afternoon in the bar, right? So he comes back with an empty box and a stack of cash, and he's just like, I'm just connecting with that belief that, that the grandkids are important, and that they're such an interesting part of your narrative, and to make them happy is one of your jobs as an adult. Mm-hmm. And just with that, he was able to sell something that I looked at and like, it's a stupid duck.
Great story, dude. Kate, do you have one to share?
Yeah, so I think it just comes down to getting honest with yourself and asking yourself, what's my why? What is the driving belief that wakes me up in the morning? And so for me, again, straight out of college, I had an English degree, then I got a teaching degree, still didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. So, and I started student teaching, and it was horrible. I woke up every single morning with just horrible anxiety. I didn't love what I was doing. It was not the right fit. And that's because there was no driving belief beyond, this is a job. I get a steady income, and I guess it's not that bad, other than, I'm dealing with like hormonal teenagers all day long. But there was no driving belief otherwise. And I guess I just wasn't being honest with myself about what I wanted and what I really believed was important. So that's important to do before you do run out of time. I mean, we're only here for a limited lifetime. So get honest with who you are, what you want. Find those people who connect with that.
Yeah, I think the sooner you can get true to yourself. It took me almost took me 32 years to really get honest with myself. And I'm glad I found out then, because I know people that are well older than me that aren't true to themselves. And so I'm glad I learned it then. But when you get true to yourself and really figure out what's important to you, and then you find a community that has those similar interests, those similar values and beliefs, I think that's how you choose the tribe that you belong to and connect with. And like Lee said, when you get around people that believe and feel and value the same things you do, it's like, wow, I'm not in this alone. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned when I joined my first community, my first clan, if you will, was I was like, holy crap, there's other people out there that want to grow their business as passionate as me. And I want to learn from them. So let me start asking questions to them, like, what makes them tick? Like, what makes them get up in the morning? Like, why are they doing what they're doing? And then, like, I hear that and I'm like, wow, that was inspiring. Like, super cool. Like, all right, well, like how do we help each other? and we go from there, right? I mean, when you work as a team, it's a whole different story. As you work as a unit, you're able to, again, move mountains in days and not months. And I'll just share a quick story with you guys. So Lee asked me, like, did you ever sell anything that you were like, right? So, like, when I first started my business, I was 25 years old or so. How I got into the graphic design game was I designed all the nightclub flyers for, like, every single nightclub in the northern New Jersey area, and which grew into nationwide, which grew into globally. And at the time, I thought I was like Mr. Worldwide. Like, I couldn't be more happy with designing that stuff because I was in that scene. Like, I loved going to nightclubs. So what happened was, as I matured, as I got older and got out of the scene, I was like, am I going to design nightclub flyers for the rest of my life? And I got disheartened, and I said, I got to get out of this. Like, I got to figure something else out. Like, I want to make an impact. Like, there's more to me than just designing nightclub flyers. And I eventually said, I have to figure something out. Now, I still do it on a very small scale for some of my long-term clients, but, like, man, it drove me absolutely insane every day. I mean, I would work 20 hours a day just designing these nightclub flyers, and it's just like, I wanted to shoot my brains out. And it just got to the point where, like, all right, I got to take the leap. I gotta get out of my comfort zone and just go there. And I did, and thank God. And one of the biggest things that helped me jump was putting myself out there authentically, not trying to blow smoke up people's asses, not trying to be somebody I'm not, just getting out there authentically and showing people. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's great, but, like, this is Henry, this is what I'm good at. I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. You're either going to connect with that or you're not. And that's what just drove everything to the next level. So, guys, we got to wrap this up. I mean, I went over a little bit, but I could talk to you guys forever about this stuff because I'm super passionate about authenticity and branding and just, like, being your true self to make your life a better life, and no matter what you do. So I appreciate both of you today coming on the show and talking about how to authentically connect with your audience and the importance of building your audience and building a network, building a clan, if you will, to really make an impact, you know, and do this as a team versus as a individual. So appreciate all that you do. I appreciate your expertise and your superpowers of taking our thoughts and making them persuasive, making them impact people's lives through the copywriting expertise that you guys do. So, guys, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. Had a blast. Thanks for having us on, man.
Awesome. Well, guys, there you have it. We did this episode a little bit differently today. We went live. This is episode number 32 of the Passionpreneur video podcast. And hope to see you guys on the next episode. So talk to you later, guys. Take care.